was supposed to be filming the intro for the double DIY build part 5, but man, can you blame me for just wanting to check out these beauties in the 3,000 gallon? I just never get tired of this aquarium. All right, let's get this intro filmed. Whew, where to start? First of all, welcome to double DIY build part 5. Yes, there's a question mark next to done. You'll see later in the video why. You'll see in the video. Before we get there though, we got a little bit of housekeeping to go. So we had the 5,000 subscriber giveaway last week, and I'm still waiting on some of the winners to contact me, you know, to get your mailing address and everything for send you out your prize pack. So I'm gonna put the community post up on the screen here, but there's a community post that shows the winners and how to, you know, what email address to send your email to me. And I also edited the description for the 5,000K subscriber video, and I put the same information in there as well. So for the half of you who haven't reached out yet, you need to do that so I can send you your prizes. And congratulations to everybody who won, and thanks to all the subscribers. Again, thanks again, and it was a great year, and I hope that 2022 is even better here in the Aquarium Main Fish Basement. So, double DIY build part 5. Why don't we just go ahead and jump into the build? Here we go. You know, 220 is definitely a pretty cool tank, but for these guys that I have in here right now, I don't think it's going to be as cool as the 750 where they're going. Just seeing Severum and Geophagus and large angels and schools of sort of medium to large size tetras cruising around a Amazonian island 750 gallon. I just want to see that. I need to get these tanks finished because, man, I can't wait to escape that bad boy, and more importantly, get all these guys in their new home. Okay, welcome to Double DIY Builds Part 5. As we saw the cichlids. They're in a 220, they look cool, but man, are they gonna look a whole lot cooler in that bad boy over there. So hopefully part 5 is where we take these from being projects and turn them into real aquariums. Let me show you where I'm at right now, and let's get started on hopefully finishing the builds. Okay, so we know we're waiting on the glass for both of the builds, which have good news, is coming very soon. We decided to go ahead and work on the sumps. So as you can see, the sumps are, they're roughed in, they're built in there. And they have the insulation in the bottom, and I use this insulation here. And part of the reason I use it is, one, it works, and two, that's what they use to put in between the glass when they ship it to me. So I get a ton of it for free. I have a whole bunch of it out in my shed. So you know how I reuse the wood from the crates that the glass comes in, and I reuse the insulation, and I built the protein skimmer stand with reused wood. So why buy it when you can just reuse it? So what we've done now is we have both sumps. This is the 6x2x14 sump on the 750 gallon, and then behind me we have the 6x18x14 sump on the 600 gallon, and they both have their insulation in place. So what's time for now is to go ahead and put liners. So I use pond liners, and the pond liners will of course line the pond, and then I'll trim it, and then I have these little plastic clips to sort of hold it nicely to the wood. And then after that, what we do is, what I use for baffles to create the different chambers is actually Japanese Matala mat. It's a plastic weave kind of mat that comes in different degrees of how dense the the weave is. So for example, the black is the loosest, and it's a lot can go through there, and then gray, then green, and then blue is the tightest. So what you'll see is at the beginning of the sump where the water comes in. So what you'll see at the sump where the water comes out of the drains here and comes down into the first chamber, that first chamber we'll use this blue mat up here because this is going to be the densest. We want to keep everything in the first chamber in that first chamber, obviously, except we want the water to move through. We want the solids, we want the physical solids to stay in that chamber. That's the settlement chamber. So unlike a lot of people's aquariums, I don't put a lot of felt or like filter fluff or anything like to catch the mechanical stuff. What I do is I do it like in a koi pond, where I have a settling chamber where all the water comes down. I fill it full of K3 media. It keeps all the solids underneath it. It gives me some extra biological because that's the water that's got the most aeration and ammonia in it. trace ammonia from the fish coming in for the bacteria. And what happens is the physical solids, they stay generally in that first chamber because we use the very, very rigid blue mat here. And then, of course, we put some fine filter mash in between, and that's where we get our mechanical polishing. And then what I do is I use a bell siphon, or a bell pump. Basically, it's a sump pump that can suck water right off the very bottom. And I suck all the solids out straight into a sink right over there. Then we go to the next chamber where you're going to see lots and lots of my favorite Higer mechanical stuff, mechanical blocks. I've been using this stuff for a while. It works great. As you remember, there's about, I don't know, like 1,000 of these things in Predator Bay, and they've been kicking butt, so sticking with them. They're in 5 tanks now, or sumps, I should say, and doing great, so sticking with them. So they'll be in the middle section, and then, of course, the very last section is the return pump. So what I'm going to do now is get that done for both the 600 and the 750, then start on the plumbing, and then hopefully by then the glass arrives. Then we'll really be looking like something. So let's get these sumps done. Okay, while waiting for the glass for the 750 and the 600, decided to go ahead and work on the filters, and as you can see, we have a couple of functioning filters, or built filters I should say, not quite functioning yet. No water or plumbing, but so the first chamber, it's my moving bed filter and also my settlement chamber. So the pipes the drainage pipes will go all the way down underneath that. Those will be floating up some once there's water in there. And there'll be pumps pushing air to that chamber. Then we go through sort of my normal thing, the Metalla and the large koi mat to get all the physical particles out. We get into the middle chamber, which has got our ceramic material, so for our bacteria. And also, you got to remember, for both of these sumps, I'll be moving over the existing seeded material from the other tanks as well. So there'll be more material in there, and then that'll jumpstart the filter. And then another set of Metalla mats, and then of course the return filter. And over on the 600 gallon, same thing, return filter in the back, ceramic media, the Metalla mat separators, and then the fluff in the front for mechanical, and the same thing with the K1 media. So at this point, that's kind of my standard sump build. It's evolved a little bit over time. Like, definitely the first chamber, I would say that one could be controversial because there's no filter, no mechanical media in there to catch the stuff that you remove. I just find with the way I run these tanks, I focus way more on the bacteria and breaking everything down than I do removing it. And I find it's cheaper for these big tanks that I run to go ahead and just go ahead and have the settling chambers. I used to keep a lot of koi ponds. I used to live down in Tampa, Florida, and I kept koi ponds there. And I always found that just a settlement chamber was just so much more effective than trying to run the filters that were mechanically catching everything. I was just cleaning those things all the time. First, it was easier just to have a pump sitting down in the settlement chamber, flip a switch, pump it out into the yard, and then just top it off. So that's pretty much what I do with these. I have the small bell sump pump that I just pop in there with a real light hose, just run that over, and I just pump out that first chamber. So even though once I turn off the pump, the water settles and everything settles down, and you just pump it out. And between the K1 and the filter material with the Metalla mat and the filter fluff, or whatever you want to call that mechanical filter, that kind of keeps everything in that first chamber. And then I just do the pump out on that rather than changing a bunch of pads. Then the rest of it is obviously deep layers of biological or filtration media that biological material can live on. I like stuff with deep pores. So it's sort of the concept like from salt water with live rock, is that you have the aerobic bacteria living on the surface of the live rock, but then deep into the crevices and cracks of the live rock, you have the anaerobic bacteria. So I think possibly people might think that the way that works is that you have a whole zone that's aerobic and a whole zone that's anaerobic, but it's not really that way. They exist in the same zone, but they exist at different levels. So if you think of like a plenum, at the top of the plenum that's exposed to the most oxygenated water, you're going to get a lot of aerobic bacteria. But then as the water goes deep into the plenum, you're exhausting that oxygen and then then you have anaerobic bacteria, and you have no light down there, deep into the substrate, the plenum, or in my case, the stack of ceramic material or lava rock or whatever I'm using. So you get the same sort of effect. And I think the other thing is that you got to remember the water is always coming through, so there's water coming in with oxygen. It gets used by the bacteria, it depletes. Then the nitrate gets used by the anaerobic bacteria, depletes, and then it's immediately replaced by new water, and that whole process starts again. So at any given time, there's the same thing. There's oxygen, and then no oxygen, and then oxygen again, going through that same area. That process is just repeating over and over and over. So so far these filters, while not perfect, they work pretty well. I got them running on a lot of big tanks, and in terms of water chemistry, they get the job done. And I always keep tweaking, keep working. Definitely all my tanks could probably use a little more mechanical than what they have, but it is working because it does test out in the water levels. The nitrates are never high. Again, I use a lot of live plants, so I should caveat that all the things I'm saying, they're what work for me in the way I keep these tanks, with deep substrates, lots of plants, or in the case of the marine side, lots of live rock and macroalgae, and large water volume. I build big tanks, or if I have a smaller tank, I keep smaller stuff in it, try to keep it in balance with the ecosystem. So what I do works here, but by all means, if you have a smaller tank, you got a 55 or a 75, I would definitely use way more mechanical than I use. You just don't have the space to use the techniques I use, and there's a reason that power filters and canisters and all that exist. They serve a function. They're very awesome in certain situations. So depending on the situation, use different filtration. But for the double DIY builds, this is what we've got. Now it's time to do the plumbing, get the glass installed, and the test fills. Let's go. Your eyes aren't fooling you. That's glass installed on the 750. This is it. Glass installation time on the double DIY builds. This is a big deal. This is, we're way past over the hump now. We're on the downward slope, and pretty soon we're gonna have some functioning aquariums. So what are you seeing right now? 750 over here, the glass is installed with the first gasket. So that's the silicone that goes on the frame and the glass, and it smushes up against it. That's the gasket, that's what holds it up there. And then the second stage is when that's dry, I put a bead of silicone all around the window on the inside, and that's what gives us our waterproof. And then as you can see with the 600, the glass is staged and ready for that first stage where I'm gonna silicone it up to the frame and do all that good stuff. So the reason I don't just do it like boom, boom, boom is because it is very tiring. You gotta squeeze out tube after tube after tube of silicone, and your hand is gonna feel like it wants to fall off. It's no joke. So in fact, let me give you the rundown of just getting the glass panels in general, so you know what to expect if you ever try something like this. So in my case, the glass comes via freight. I have got glass in the past where a local glass company brought it here and they even carried it around back, so that was nice, but I still had to install it in the aquarium, so that did require a friend to help do that, to lift up this heavy glass and put it over the top of the aquarium. But in this case, the freight delivery driver couldn't make it up my driveway. I have a very long driveway, and it has snowed recently because it's January, so I had to meet the freight driver in a parking lot and transfer the crate with the glass over to my pickup truck. And to make that even more fun, the driver of the freight truck was a very small woman, so she was not overly strong and couldn't do a whole lot to help me, so I pretty much had to drag that crate myself. She did do a great job of using the pallet jack and getting it to the hairy edge of the truck on the down gate, or the down lift gate, right over my truck. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been, for sure. Yeah, so that definitely helped a lot, but still dragging that thing there, I think I pulled something in the in the gluteus maximus or something, who knows. I tweaked something, but we're still chugging around, just grimacing a little bit, climbing in and out of these guys. But the glass is here, and then the other thing is, you gotta have a buddy or someone you can pay to help you. So in my case, I want to thank my friend Sean for helping me carry the glass in and get it up and over and in the tank so I can start working with it and getting it installed. So just so you know, each one of these glass panels weighs between 125 and 150 pounds. So it's no joke, and they have seamed edges, so they're not razor sharp, like not cut your hand, but they're not smooth either. They're not the easiest things to move around. Plus, when you're putting it in here, you can't just be slaying it down on the epoxy, gouging anything. You got to be careful, you know, and it's not the easiest thing to move. And it also, I get it cut pretty tight, so there's not a lot of extra room. So it's definitely a bit of a procedure. Probably the hardest part, in my opinion, of building these is that. And then, of course, the silicone is when you're applying this much silicone. So, for example, you're looking at 8 tubes of silicone over here already, and then probably another 1 or 2 tubes for the giant bead that's going to go in there for waterproofing. So that's a lot of silicone in an enclosed space, and it's very much like the epoxy situation where it stinks. And I mean, you're probably losing brain cells if you don't have some good ventilation when you're applying all that silicone. It's not like when you're outside siliconing a window, you know, indoors, that fumes really builds up, and it's no joke. So just things to look out for if you ever do this kind of thing. But so what we're going to do now is take you inside the 750, show you what that big gasket looks like, show you where the bead's going to be, and then we'll hop over to the 600 and start applying these guys to get us going. I need to cut the tops off a few more. Now you see I really cut them off because you're putting in a ton of silicone, and I'm going to jam a big screw down in there and open that hole way up because we want it to come out in a big thick bead. This isn't a delicate job. This is about creating a big fat gasket of silicone, which you're going to see on the inside of the 750. And just a heads up, I've been keeping all the receipts on this build. People have asked, you know, what does it cost to build these things? So I'm going to actually tell you. I'm going to add it all up, and I'm going to do a video on it, and yeah, we're going to find out what it cost in, you know, January of 2022 to build these. I can tell you right now, 2 years ago when I built the 3,000 gallon, way cheaper. You know, a year ago when I built Predator Bay, well, actually that was the peak. That was the most expensive. It's cheaper now than it was then. But yeah, it's all over the place is my point. And if I can avoid banging my head on these clamps, let's go around and check out the inside of the 750. Okay, so this is the big giant bead of silicone I was referring to. You see how that's basically, that's not a bead, that is a blob, that's a gasket. And that goes all the way around and all the way down there. And so that's what's basically just holding this glass up against the frame. And it does provide waterproofing as well, because that is a giant gasket of silicone, and it's not easy for that water to get through there. But what needs to come second is a bead that goes down and across the bottom and up the other side, and that is a big thick bead that is going to give us our true waterproofing. Just like when you build a glass aquarium, the silicone that's in between the glass panels holding them together is for structure, and then the internal bead is for the waterproofing. So we've got the structure in place now, and after I get the panel in for the 600, I'll come back over here, clean up those edges down there some, and then apply the giant inside waterproofing bead. But for now, let's jump over there and get the 600 gallon window installed. All right, kind of at the middle stage of the glass install now. As you saw, we have the 750 glass in siliconed, and what I've done is I've gone on the inside and put the giant bead. I'll show you that in just a second. And over on the 600 gallon, we have the glass installed. I've taken the top braces off. They had clamps just like on the 750, but I did want to show you that I do use braces from front to back to push the bottom part of the tank in. That was also done over here, but I had pulled them out, I think, before I started videoing, so I just want to leave them in over on the 600 so you can see what that looks like. So what we're going to do now is start on the inside bead on the 600, all on the side of the window, and get those bulkheads installed. But let's jump inside the 750 and show you what that bead looks like and the bulkheads. Okay, as you can see, there is a giant thick bead of silicone going all the way around the window, and that is what's giving us our watertight seal, with this big glob up here just being the gasket. And then also with the bulkheads, you can see they're siliconed in, and I put silicone around the outside. There's silicone underneath and around on all of them. And the reason I do that, where I would never do that on glass, because glass is perfectly smooth and the rubber gasket will seal up against it. But this is not the case with these kind of builds. There's imperfections. It's like a rough. It's definitely not smooth like glass. So I do use the silicone here to make sure any of those little gaps are filled in, both underneath the gasket and a silicone bead around it. And then now here we are on the outside of the aquarium. You can see the returns, 3/4 inch returns, and our 2-inch drains. And I gotta tell you, these nuts from BRS to twist these in Oh my gosh, that was the easiest time getting those in there. Got them in super tight. These things are a godsend. I got them for each size, so being able to put on there, get it nice and hand tight, and then being able to put pliers in there and get torque and really crank it down, just amazing. But let's jump over to the 600 and get that inside bead in and get those bulkheads installed, and then we'll take a look. All right, the silicon work is done. It's another stage of the build in the books. We already showed you the 750. It's got both the gasket and the internal waterproofing bead. We showed all the bulkheads are siliconed in. See, we're starting to work on the plumbing, but let's check out the 600 real quick. So where we last left this, we just had the glass in with the silicone gasket, and you can see we've got now the outside silicone work done. Same with the 750. Nice bead on the outside, and of course the inside of the 600. Let's take a look at that. Okay, starting over on the left-hand side, we have the finished silicone bead that gives it the waterproofing. And you can see it comes all the way along the bottom and up the right side. And of course, the bulkheads. The bulkheads are installed, and they're all siliconed in and ready to go. So that means that we are ready to move on to roughing in the plumbing, and that's already started. So on both the tanks, I've started roughing in the two 2-inch drains. This is over on the 600 gallon, and then over on the 750, the same thing as well. And I'm also working on running out the return pump. So we have 1.5 inch coming off the return pump, and what we'll do, and this is the same on both tanks, we'll run 1.5 all the way out to here, and then we'll break it up into 2 3/4 inch lines, which will go up to the returns on either side. And the same situation over on the 600, 3/4 inch returns on both sides, and running 1.5 out. So it's been 4 days with the silicone drying on the tanks. Needs one more day, and then what I can do is I can start the test fill. So basically, I'll be filling the tank up, to here below the bulkheads. So, roughly like here. So we'll test most of the tank, and we'll let that go while I finish working on the plumbing. Same thing for the 750, and then once the plumbing's ready, we'll go ahead and fill it all the way, the rest of the way back up, and we'll test all the plumbing, make sure no leaks there. Then, of course, as the water test is progressing, that gives us an opportunity to go along, clean up all the messy silicone on the outside of the glass that's squeezed out, give a fresh coat of paint on some of the areas that got gummed up when I was putting in the epoxy coating, and of course paint and install the top braces. And then when we're done with that, and assuming the water test is successful, well, it's go time at that point. So yeah, we are getting very close. All right, I'm gonna jump back on this plumbing. You know how I always say the test fill is the most nerve-wracking? Well, it's double nerve-wracking now, because I got to test fill 2 of these bad boys. But you do get to answer the question of, did I build it right or did I build it wrong? We'll know, because either it's going to hold water or it's going to, well, we don't use the L word around here, but let's take a look. It's filling up for the test fill. Okay, that's the 750 gallon starting its test fill. As you can imagine, it is going to take quite some time to fill up this beast. So this is something I always do and recommend that you do it when you're going to be home all day. So I'm working from home today. It's early in the morning. Kick it off. It's going to run for many, many hours to fill up. Keep it in mind, we're just going to go underneath the bulkheads because we are still working on the plumbing. More and more plumbing parts are here. But hopefully I will finish the plumbing this evening. And hopefully also both these tanks will be filled up, because not only do we got to fill the 750, we got to fill the 600 gallon too. So it's going to be a little while. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, and yeah, hopefully good news coming. Okay, there's a 750 filled all the way up to the bulkheads there, and you can probably hear the noise behind me. That's the 600 gallon. So far so good with the 750 filled this high. It's been about a day, but let's take a look at the 600. All right, and there's the 600 filling up. Doing the same thing in the 600 gallon. We're going to fill it right up underneath those bulkheads. And we'll let it test from there, and we finish the plumbing, and then of course we will test the plumbing and the whole system once that's ready. All right, back to filling. Okay, good news. The 5-day water fill test is successful. Now this is the below the bulkhead line, and over here it was below the bulkhead, but we are starting to fill it up even further because we've gone ahead and got the plumbing done here. Let me take you down underneath real quick, and you can see that the pump is plumbed in there, and we have the 1-inch return line coming all the way across, and our two 2-inch drains over here. And now looking at it from the side, we see the 1-inch drain comes out, it tees off into two 3/4-inch drains, which go to our returns on either side. And then we have our two 2-inch drains coming down. You can see everything is nice and strapped in place, and there's straps under here, so everything's all nice and tight. And what I'm doing now is, you see the pythons back in there, is we're filling it up. And well, let me take you up top. Okay, so we're filling it up above the bulkhead line. So the goal is, if you look at the front there, is to have the water level just above the line where you can see through the front. So we have the returns kind of pushed up high here on both sides. You see they kind of arc way up, and then we have the drains tilted up. Now I think the drains are aligned correctly, but if they're not, I can tilt them to bring them down some. And I know they don't need to go higher, but they may need to go a little bit lower. So all we're doing now is just continually to fill the tank until we start draining, and then we're gonna test the plumbing. So we gotta make sure no leaks on any of the bulkheads, no leaks on any of the plumbing all the way down, and assuming that all goes well, we'll let it run. And of course, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be awesome because double DIY, 2 big awesome tanks, 2 big freshwater aquascapes, huge freshwater aquascapes. It's going to be amazing, but right now it's just double the work. So yeah, everything we've done here, we got to finish the plumbing over here and do the same tests and everything. So we're halfway there, but so far it's looking good, and I guess I better jump on the plumbing on the 600 gallon. Oh, it was going so smooth. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff back there behind me. A lot to unpack. You're probably seeing a fan and a sump pump and all that good stuff. So you know it's not all good news, but it's not all bad news either. Let's go see how the sausage is made and where we're at on the 600 gallon. All right. Whenever you see the fan and the sump pump, you know that's not good news. But oh, where do we start? Well, you know what? Let's start with the good stuff, and then we'll touch on the bad stuff there. All right. So the 600 gallon, the water test for the tank has been flawless. The water test for the bulkheads has been flawless, no leaks. And as you can see, all the plumbing is done on the 600, just like over on the 750, matching plumbing job. It's all good. No leaks anywhere with the plumbing, no leaks with the tank, no leaks with the bulkhead, no leaks with the glass, none of that. But there was a big leak, and it was with that super crappy liner that, you know, I know you can't see some video, but it's plasticky and it's cheap. And ultimately, it's my fault for ordering that. I thought I was ordering this, and I didn't pay attention, and I ordered that piece of crap. So that piece of crap had already had a slit in it, or I slid it somehow, whatever. It leaked. As soon as it went in there, it was just coming raw out of the floor big time, right over here in this corner. So that is the downside, because it slows me down a little bit, because as you can see, I already had the filter all set up and everything, but it's not a huge problem. I have a fix right here with the proper liner, so I will be taking everything out of the liner, installing the proper liner, and we'll be back in business. Okay, so I got a little bit of rework doing that liner. Shouldn't be that big of a derailment, but then we'll have the 600 gallon back in water test mode and running. So the good news is the 750 has been running for quite some time, longer than the normal test range of a week, because we've had a few little things slow me down. But in the meantime, so not only has the 750 gallon far surpassed this water test, give me an opportunity to go ahead and get the top braces on. Top braces are also on the 600, and I've started cutting all the lids, and I'll work on getting the getting the lighting on there, so that we'll have a better view on an empty tank than just this. But for now, it's time to rip out the crappy liner and put in the proper liner, and then get the 600 gallon back on track. All right, it is far from perfect, but the double DIY builds are essentially done. I say essentially, that's why I put the question mark in the thumbnail, is yeah, they're pretty much done. Well, you know what? Let me just show you, and yeah, you'll see. Okay, so we left off I had to redo the sump because we had the crappy liner that leaked. And you can see that I have roughed in the new liner. It's completely functional. The sump is all back up and going. I just need to trim off the edges of the liner, just like I did over here. And then in theory, eventually, it'll all be covered up with trim anyway, so you won't see it, but it is done. And as you can see, the 600 gallon, it is running. I went ahead and put one of the new aquarium lights on each tank, just so we have a little light in there so you can see what we're working with here. So the 750 still been running flawlessly, a couple weeks now, and the 600 gallon running great for now a week, just about a week, 6 days. Again, all the plumbing's done. The leak was the sump is remediated. So the reason I'm doing the question mark on the done is they're done. They're built. They're holding water. They passed the test. The whole system is running. Everything that that needs to be vetted is vetted. The question mark is, if you look at the top, I haven't got all 3 lights on yet. I ran out of the material for the top, so I need to put another lid over here. I need to get the wiring run properly for the light, run across the back and down. Kind of like on the 750, this isn't the actual top material. It's going to be like on the same as the 600, but I just want to put a light on there so you guys can see what it looks like. So there's a few little finishing touches. There's definitely some wiring and stuff to do, some wire management, all that bird's nest in there. That won't be that way. Trimming the liner, little odds and ends like that. But I figured I didn't want to hold up the video. Taking care of those little odds and ends. I want to go ahead and get this out to you. I know that building these things in real time, sometimes it can create a little extra space in between videos because, hey, I'm building these things. It takes time. I run into impediments like poor quality sump liners and little setbacks here and there. But we are done. The double DIY builds are done. We are very close to scaping and transferring the fish over to having a 750 gallon Amazonian community tank and a 600 gallon Asian community tank, Asian stream community tank, Asian jungle stream community tank, whatever we're gonna call it. We got Amazonian islands over there and Asian jungle stream tank over here, the 600. So what's coming next? Obviously, I need to drain all the water out of these systems, shut them down, and start the aquascape and the aquascaping of both of them. So that's going to be no small feat. It's quite a bit of material going in these guys, and obviously I got to climb in there to do the scaping, so lots of work to do. The plan on both of those is I'm going to do both those videos as premieres on YouTube. So a few the plan is to premiere them Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Each one will have its own premiere on a successive Saturday or whatever it ends up being. But I'll put it out maybe say Wednesday, so you have 3-4 days notice that it's coming, so you can hopefully be there live and we can chat while everyone's seeing the video for the first time. I think it'll be pretty amazing, the types of scapes that these tanks can hold. I mean, a 6x5x3 and a 6x4x3. These are super chunky tanks, and they're going to be pretty. I mean, like I said, if they live up to what I've imagined them being, and the amount of material I have sitting out there, these scapes are going to be pretty wild. And I'm really looking forward to making those videos and obviously making those scapes and then moving the fish over. I think they're just gonna love their new homes without a doubt. And so in addition to the premieres for the videos after the tanks were scaped and the fish moved over, there's also an upcoming video for the total breakdown of the cost to build these 2 tanks. So unlike my previous tanks I built, I try not to pay too much attention to how much it cost. This one, a lot of people have asked, how much does it cost? So for this one, I wrote it all down. I saved all the receipts. So we'll go over the whole, both tanks, the whole build, the whole double DIY build. and you'll know exactly what it cost me to build these 2 tanks, you know, in late 2021, early 2022. Obviously, the price of the materials is always going to be a fluctuating thing. So it costs less money to build a 3000 than it costs to build these, because back when I built it, materials were a fraction of the cost, even though it uses a lot more materials. You know, that's just nature of the beast, and that's always going to be the case, and it's always going to depend where you live in the world. So, you know, it'll just be a metric. You'll see what it cost me to build these tanks right now. Yeah, that's the best I can do, but I'll have the receipts and put that video together as well. And of course, we got the par video coming up down the road, so a lot going on. And then of course, oh, what am I forgetting? Once we move the fish from the 220 and the 125 into the 750 to 600, well, we got to take care of those tanks. We got whole new rescapes coming for those. So for the freshwater community side of the house, and the aquarium, as far as the freshwater community side of the house and the aquarium main basement, there is a lot going on, a lot going on. And you know, I mean, these new tanks, I'm gonna have to get some new fish too. So we have some cool fish edition videos coming as well. All right, lots to go, but yeah, lots to look forward to. And as always, thanks for watching.